The anime begins by showing us the depths of a dungeon, where a man named Orhun Dora is dealing with several monsters, skillfully wielding his sword. The guy manages to get rid of several monsters in just a few seconds, which makes him think he hasn't gotten as out of shape as he thought and can still become a swordsman, much like myself after seeing all the weight I gained after Christmas. When a group of goblins appears, Orhun decides it's also time to try out some support magic. He casts Strength Up on himself. It's a support magic that enhances the physical abilities of its targets or strengthens their equipment. The caster can not only utilize it to bolster his party members, but he can also apply it to himself, thereby allowing him to defeat numerous goblins with great ease. Spells that boost both attack and defense are an absolute necessity for any party. Just when Orhun thinks it's all over, more goblins appear, so he attacks them without hesitation and defeats them in a matter of seconds. Because ultimately his magic also has a significant weakness, time, given that he can only use it for precisely 3 minutes. When more goblins show up, Orhun uses Strength Up on himself again, taking out as many as he can. Support magic doesn't last forever, and each individual's magic resistance changes how long it stays active. In his case, it lasts 180 seconds, 3 minutes, so he has to keep a close eye on the battle and cast the spell at just the right moment, like in Clash Royale. Enchanters who rely on support magic are always in a race against time and typically wouldn't attempt to use it while also wielding a sword. However, in his case, it's something he's decided to do because he's a total badass, and that allows him to defeat the goblins in the remaining 3 seconds of his support magic. In another scene, we see what happened before, when Oliver, the hero's party leader, asks him to leave the team. Orhun clearly hadn't anticipated this. In fact, he even thought it was some kind of prank, given that Oliver and he were childhood friends, comrades who had practically always been together. Oliver confesses he's given him numerous chances up to this point because they share the same hometown. However, he states that from now on, Orhun won't be able to keep pace with the rest of the group. Finally, another party member urges Oliver to get to the point and reveal the truth. The other guy named Derek agrees and tells him to just tell Orhun that he's simply slowing them down. Orhun just can't believe how harshly they're treating him, but Oliver isn't backing down. He bluntly tells Orhun he's simply not strong enough and must leave the hero's party. Orhun attempts to process the situation, as the party he and Oliver formed 8 years prior achieved S rank in just a few short years. They were the first to reach the 94th floor of the Great Southern Dungeon, and people started calling them the Heroes Party because of it. Orhun admits that he might not be strong enough, but he clarifies that at this rate the same can be said for all of them. Oliver cuts him off, saying they didn't understand how important it was to have an enchanter capable of using support magic. However, during last month's joint raid, they witnessed the incredible prowess of the enchanters from the other S-rank party. This starkly highlighted the feebleness of his own support magic. Orhun reminds them that he was supposed to be a swordsman and that's why he created his own original magic. Derek immediately shuts him down, saying he only became one because Oliver was better with the sword than he was. Annalie agrees and tells him that due to his poor aptitude for magic, he's in no position to complain. Orhun reminds them they needed an enchanter, so he became one because he had the greatest aptitude for it. He has invented his own type of magic to make up for his shortcomings, and they've survived even on the deepest floors of the dungeon because of it. Oliver interrupts him to inform him that they've already found a replacement enchanter. Orhun cannot conceal his shock and the deep hurt he feels from hearing that, so Oliver averts his gaze and offers an apology, stating that this is simply how things will proceed from this moment forward. Annalie doesn't seem sorry at all and cheerfully says that they are the hero's party, so they have to keep moving forward, which they can't do with him on the team. Damn old hag, Orhun cannot believe this is how he is being treated after all they have been through. But it's clear there's no longer a place for him in the party, so he just thanks them for everything and leaves. Annalie remains unsatisfied and proceeds to list all the various things he supposedly can't do, from magic to sword combat. Again, damn old hag. She admits he can do many things, but only at an A rank level, and yet he was always telling them what to do, which irritated them. Orhun pauses for a moment before leaving, and Annalie tells him that people like him are usually called Jack-of-All-Trades. Back in the present, Orhun defeats another goblin after remembering those words, and now he's more determined than ever to be both a swordsman and an enchanter. He's adaptable enough to take on It is a fresh new style that he developed, which combines both aspects. That way, no one will call him a jack-of-all-trades again, and one day he'll be an adventurer who can do it all. It is truly incredible how far the desire to prove someone wrong can take you in life. After defeating the monsters, he registers his presence with the teleportation crystal so he can easily start from the 7th floor next time. Before leaving, he sees an adventurer group running away in terror, saying there were too many orcs to handle. Orhun attempts to remain uninvolved, but upon hearing they abandon the girl to save themselves, he resolutely decides to intervene. He understands he shouldn't interfere, knowing she merely had bad luck joining that specific group, yet he also deeply comprehends the pain of being deserted. Orhun walks up to the group and reprimands them for making excuses instead of going to rescue that girl, but one of them gets defensive and says that even if he himself had stayed, he couldn't have saved her alone. The guy tries to throw a thoughtless punch, but Orhun swiftly knocks him down and then asks the others where they abandoned that girl to die. Meanwhile, we see the poor girl surrounded by dangerous orcs and she doesn't know what to do. Overwhelmed with panic, she quickly casts a magic barrier to fend them off, yet she understands it won't hold for long, and there's no way she can face so many foes by herself. The girl screams for help as the barrier shatters, and fortunately, Orhun arrives just then, unleashing an aerial shock to attack the orcs, launching them into the air with a forceful gust of wind. He stands in front of the girl to protect her, and without hesitation uses his support magic to strengthen his body. Then, using his love technique, he swiftly defeats the first orc with his sword. The girl watches him in amazement, wondering if he's a swordsman or an enchanter. Then Orhun uses Shard Swap, which allows him to easily slice one of the orcs in two. The girl is visibly awestruck, having never witnessed such a unique fighting style prior to this moment. Orhun acknowledges the numerous orcs, grasping why a lower-ranked group would retreat. However, he knows he can handle them by himself. In a matter of seconds, Orhun takes out all the orcs and then asks the girl if she is okay. She's still attempting to process the sheer extent of his strength, and at that very moment she's simply profoundly grateful to still be alive, even though she obviously can't prevent the tears from freely flowing afterward. Once she calms down, they both finally leave the dungeon, and before he goes, the girl decides to thank him properly and introduces herself as Sophia Claudel. The last name certainly sounds familiar to Orhun, and he also recognizes the emblem on her cloak. Still, he decides not to mention it and chooses to introduce himself as well. Then Sophia shyly asks him if he would be willing to join her for dinner as a token of her gratitude. Orhun is clearly surprised and tries to tell her he didn't save her expecting any gratitude. Still, Sophia insists, and he has no choice but to walk her back to the city. When they arrive, he notices she's leading him to one of the rabbits' shops, which has the same emblem as her cloak. With that crucial detail, Orhun at last confirms that Sophia is indeed part of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, one of the premier guilds within the kingdom of Nojitand. The Night Sky Silver Rabbits rank among the kingdom's most popular clans, a fact he confirmed during last month's collaborative raid. As soon as they enter the place, Sophia is surprised to see her sister there, though Orhun is just as shocked. Sophia's sister is clearly happy to see her, but she's not at all pleased to see Orhun, immediately getting defensive and saying it's too soon for her to have a boyfriend. Sophia gets so flustered that she can't explain anything, but her surprise deepens even further when she discovers that the two of them are already acquainted. Orhun recognizes her as Selma Claudel, the S-rank group leader of the powerful Night Sky Silver Rabbits, and the most potent enchanter on the continent. She was the one who elevated enchanters to prominence and pioneered the revolutionary idea that different group members should assume distinct roles, attackers to take down enemies, defenders to absorb the blows, and supporters to aid from the rear, forever changing the dynamics of adventurer groups. Splitting the adventurer group into those three roles was her idea, and it forever changed how adventurers think when going into dungeons. The hero's party is no exception, which is why he had to switch from being a swordsman to an enchanter. He also encountered her during last month's raid, leading Oliver and the others to decide to get rid of him. However, he's baffled as to why she's currently upset with him. If anything, it should be the other way around, but Selma makes it very clear when she asks if he's trying to go after her 14-year-old sister. With this, Orhun immediately grasps the situation, realizing it's a clear misunderstanding. He tries to explain that her sister simply invited him to dinner, and his intentions are completely pure, to eat and then go to sleep, nothing more. Despite his earnest attempt to rectify the situation, Selma only became even more enraged, demanding to know if he genuinely believed Sophia wasn't worthy of him. Orhun begins to feel a bit annoyed, as that's not at all what he intended to say. However, Sophia quickly steps in, asking her sister not to be rude to the man who saved her life. Selma's attitude instantly shifts to concern, and she asks if she went into the dungeon alone. Sophia has no choice but to confess, so Selma reminds her that in 2 days they'll be entering the Great Dungeon and that she had asked her to stay put for just 2 days. Orhun now realizes that Sophia ventured into the dungeon without informing her clan, yet as she appears unharmed, Selma chooses not to make a big deal out of it. Now that she knows Orhun saved her sister, Selma thanks him and apologizes for being so rude. Aside from that, she says she hasn't seen him since the raid, and this is their first real talk. Sophia is still a bit surprised that they know each other, so her sister explains that they are both charmers and were assigned together during last month's raid. Orhun clarifies that she took the lead and he just helped, but Selma tells him he was actually a big help and it was just what she expected from him. Sophia comments that Selma talks as if she's known him for a long time, but Selma is surprised that she doesn't know who he is. She informs her that he is a member of the hero's party, which makes Sophia immediately panic. Orhun asks her not to get so worked up and tells them he's no longer a hero because he left his party just yesterday. Selma is clearly shocked by this and doesn't understand how they could let someone like him go. Orhun tells her they had their reasons and that they both agreed to it. What you say when your girlfriend dumps you to save face, so right now he is available. Selma's instantly interested, and Orhun wonders if she'll recruit him for the Silver Rabbits. Before she can speak, he tells her he doesn't want to be in a clan or a party for a while. Selma replies that he's got the wrong idea and clarifies that she has the perfect job for him. She wants him to go with her clan tomorrow on a training expedition and will make sure he gets paid. Just as the name indicates, it's about instructing the new recruits, and he can certainly consider it as on-the-job training. An A-rank group or even higher will lead the new recruits, and they will spend 3 days descending 50 floors deep into the large southern dungeon. Orhun is quite surprised to hear it will only be 3 days, considering even the best adventurers would typically take 6 months to a year. So, it's a pretty extreme schedule. Selma admits that it is, but clarifies it's not impossible if they take the shortest route, and that the sponsors are really pushing for it. Orhun remarks that the Silver Rabbits are in a difficult spot, but what they're suggesting is so ludicrous they truly should have been able to decline their sponsors' demands. If they're doing it anyway, there must be another reason. Without thinking too hard, Orhun comes to a conclusion. If the new recruits, who couldn't defeat a floor boss on their own, can explore the deepest floors, it will strengthen the clan as a whole. Selma is visibly taken aback that he deduced this with merely a fraction of what she revealed, which in itself suggests to her that his intellect surpasses her initial assessment. Within dungeons, adventurers are required to defeat the floor bosses, which emerge every 10 levels in order to delve deeper into the dungeon. It is quite common for new recruits to get injured or even die during these battles. However, if a seasoned adventurer defeats the boss, they only need to register their progress with the next floor crystal to continue their descent. That's why she wants him to go with them. Orhun mentions it sounds like a very important mission for the Silver Rabbits, so he asks if it's really okay for an outsider like him to participate. Selma kicks his hands without hesitation and tells him that she sincerely respects him. Orhun is once again surprised because he can't believe Selma respects him as a charmer. He thought she didn't even remember him. This clearly makes him happy, but he doesn't understand why, since he was kicked out of the hero's party for being too weak and because his magic was inferior to hers during the raid. He would definitely regret it if he had to go back to being a charmer after what just happened to him, so he rejects her proposal, saying he has other plans. Sophia quickly jumps in and says she'll be going too, so she'd be really happy if he came with her. Orhun's resolve wavers for a moment when he sees her pleading expression, so he tells her he'll think about it. Before leaving, he clarifies that he has retrained as a swordsman, so even though she seems to respect him as a charmer, if he goes, it will be as a swordsman. Selma is clearly surprised by this information and asks him why he did that. Orhun understands her surprise, but he's already made up his mind and it's something he's not willing to give up on. Selma decides to accept it, even if she doesn't fully get it, because deep down she believes that if things get tough, he'll go back to his main role as a charmer. She tells him to be at the Silver Rabbits' headquarters the next morning if he decides to go, and with that their conversation ends. Orhun decides to visit an old man who tells him it's been another busy day at his shop. Orhun is deeply pleased to hear he's doing well, and the old man reminds him it's all thanks to him promoting the shop after becoming a high-level adventurer. Orhun's expression saddens at this, and he tells him he's no longer a member of the hero's party, so he can't promote it anymore. After all, now that he's not a hero, no one will listen to anything he says. Yet, the old man says he's grateful, always has been, and always will be, because he's still Orhun, hero or not. Orhun is deeply moved, unable to understand how anyone could be thankful to someone like him. The old man reminds him that he knows what Orhun has accomplished and how hard he has toiled, and therefore he is sure to hear even more words of gratitude directed at him from this moment forward. Those words mean there are people who need him, so he must treasure them every time he hears them. For him, things are just getting started, so he just has to do what he thinks is best, whether he lives for himself or helps others. The old man will stand by his side no matter what. Orhun fights back tears at his words, and all he can do is express his gratitude, for now he truly knows what he must do. The next morning he meets Selma at the Silver Rabbit's headquarters, just as she told him the day before. She is clearly pleased to see him there and asks him to follow her inside right away. As they walk, she comments that he looks much more lively than the day before, so she assumes he feels relieved to have left the hero's party. Orhun smiles back and admits it's something like that, though he doesn't give details, knowing he doesn't need to.